So, shall I go ahead and get started now?
Yeah, Meera, you can start it.
Okay. Thank you all for joining and welcome to Pakistan Dreaming. I am really happy that I am able to present in Pakistan Dreaming once again. And feeling sad that I cannot be in person there, but hopefully, some point of time I can be there. And thank you so much to our sponsors who is making this event a big success. So today's topic is enhance your sales or security using restriction rules and scoping rules. A little about myself. My name is Meera R Nair. I am having total 17 years of IT experience, in which almost 15 years in Salesforce platform itself. I am 3 times Salesforce MVP, and I am also leading Trivandrum Architect Community Group. I'm currently working as a solution architect at UST in Trivandrum, India. That's about myself. So this is our agenda for today. We are going to see an overview of the Salesforce security. Then we are going to see the overview of restriction rule and scoping rules, and then we will be seeing a comparison between restriction rules and scoping rules. Then we will move to a demo where I am going to demonstrate how restriction rules and scoping rules are going to be useful. So I'm sure you all are very familiar with how Salesforce security is established. So basically, you all have seen this funnel type of security overview where people will be given with the most restricted access to make sure that people are not getting access to records to which they are not supposed to get access. So basically, if there is at least one record that a particular person should not be seeing or editing, in that case, we will be making that objects or organization by default, that is OWD, as private. Then how we are going to open up access when something or some object is marked as private? We have got different security mechanisms in Salesforce to expand the access of records to users. The first thing is role hierarchy. That is, when we establish a role hierarchy, and whenever a record is owned by a specific user, all the users on top of his role hierarchy will be getting default access to people below his role hierarchy, to all the records who owned by people below his role hierarchy. That is one approach. The second way is that we have got sharing rule. That is, you can specify specific criteria of records to share with to whom we need to share. For example, if you have got account and if the OWD is private, and you can mention, like, all the accounts belongs to Pakistan should be shared with a specific person or a public group or a role. So that's another way of expanding your access to records. The other way is manual sharing. That is, you can define or a particular person can share a single record with another person manually. There are so many other approaches also. If you have, I'm sure you will be knowing, like, there are Apex managed sharing, where when there are complex security related criteria, you will be able to specify the criteria using by which through Apex, you will be able to share a specific record with a specific user or a group. Now, what we are going to see is the importance of restriction rules and scoping rules. When we have this kind of different security mechanisms available in Salesforce, why we really need restriction rules. So, like this figure is showing, the existing security model is that the organization by default and different sharing mechanisms will be giving access to users. And restriction rule is basically applying a filtering criteria on top of the existing shared records so that a specific person is going to get only a subset of records. Later, we are going to see a demo on how this can be done with an example. But basically, if there is a set of records to which the user is access through restriction rule, subset will be filtered out and the user is going to get access to only those filtered set of records. And other set of records to which he has access in the past, if he try to access that through probably recently viewed records, he is going to see an error actually. So he's going to completely lose access to the other records. That's the way restriction rules are working. Scoping rules are somewhat similar, but the difference is that it is just going to give you a filtered view of records, but you will be still retaining access to the other record, that is unfiltered records, right? Users will be still getting access to that. Only thing is he will not be able to see that in the current view. So we can see use cases where restriction rules and scoping rules will be used. So this scoping rules are getting applied in the source mechanism, list views, SOSL, SOQL, reports, lookups, everywhere. Now we are going to see a comparison between restriction rules and scoping rules. Both are available in Lightning Experience only. And if you see restriction rules, it is available in custom objects, external objects, contract, task, and events. So what we have seen, the most useful use case of restriction rule is for external objects. I hope you know what is an external object. Whenever the data is residing in an external system, and if you don't want to store that object in Salesforce, but just want to see the records in Salesforce in a real-time manner, that's the scenario when you will be using external objects. But the standard sharing rules will not be applied on external objects. So if you want to control the visibility to external objects, restriction rule will be the right choice. Now, if we take the scoping rule, this is again available on all custom objects. In addition to that, standard objects like account, case, contact, event, lead, opportunity, and task we will be able to create scoping rules. And restriction rules and both scoping rules are applied on list views, lookups, reports, search, SOQL, and SOSL. So the major difference between the restriction rules and scoping rules, like we discussed, when we apply restriction rule, the other records which is getting filtered out, the current user is not going to get access to that. But scoping rule, you still have access, but only in the current view, the records will be limited. And both the rules you will be able to create that using setup, through setup, metadata API, or tooling API. And there are some restrictions on how many rules you will be able to define per object. In developer and enterprise edition, you will be able to define only 2 rules. But in professional and unlimited, you can create 5 rules per object. But there is an additional criteria that you can have only 1 rule per user per object. So you need to be very careful when you are defining restriction rules and scoping rules to make sure that you are not going to cross this specified limits. And if you want to deploy restriction rules and scoping rules from one org to another org, you can use change set or unlock packages. There are some additional considerations like we mentioned here. Restriction rules, it's not getting applied on child objects. For example, if you define a restriction rule on account, it is not getting applied on opportunity. And when you are specifying the conditions for a restriction rule, it is getting just applied, only the operator supported is equals, and or those kind of operators are not supported when you are defining a restriction rule. And when a code is getting executed in the system mode, or a specific user is having view all or modify all permission, at that moment, restriction rules will not be getting applied to your view. And the other concern is that the source might not be always returning expected records when restriction rules are imposed. Almost same kind of restrictions are getting applied on scoping rules also. It's not getting applied on child objects, and you can operator just support equals only. And the other criteria is that the search performance can get impacted when you are having restriction rules or scoping rules applied, because this is an additional filter getting applied on your available data. Now, without delay, let us go and see a real-time use case where you will be able to apply restriction rules and scoping rules. So first we will see restriction rules. For that, what we are doing I have got this my developer edition. In this, I have got a custom object called job applications. So job application is where people will be applying for a specific job. And my requirement is that based on a specific region, the recruitment team should be having restricted access to job applications. For example, if I am having a region called APAC, only people from or recruitment managers from APAC should have visibility to job application from APAC. And if there is a recruitment manager from EMEA, only the EMEA recruitment manager should be having access to records from EMEA. That is my requirement. So I have got two job applications here. I will show you a different view probably. Let me refresh. So I have got a recruitment manager actually created in my system. And currently there is no filtering criteria getting applied. So you can see that particular recruitment manager is having visibility to records from both APAC and EMEA. Now, since we have restricted criteria on job applications, right? The OWD of job application is set as private. So probably I can quickly show you the OWD. Let me go to job applications. You can see I have set the OWD as private. Then what I have done, I got a role called recruitment manager, and that role will be getting applied to all the people in recruitment role. And I have got a sharing rule here, that is uh, now it is a restricted access, that is we have given private. Now I want to open up all the job applications to all the recruitment team. For that I have created a sharing rule where the criteria is like the job application name, if it is not empty, I'm going to share this with the recruitment team role with a read write permission. That means now all the people with the role recruitment team will be able to see all the job applications. So let me open the user list. I will quickly show you the recruitment manager user that we have created for whom the current view I just shown. So this is the recruitment manager user. And if I open this particular user, you can see his role is recruitment team. There is one more thing. How I am going to control the visibility based on the recruitment manager's geography. For that, I have created a geography field in user record also, and currently you can see his geography is given as APAC. At this moment we have not applied any restriction rule or scoping rule on top of that. Before applying it, what I will do, I will just open both the job applications to which the recruitment manager. Now this login is using the recruitment manager. I will quickly show you to make sure that, yeah, you can see the login is as a recruitment manager at this moment. So I have opened the first job and also the second job. This is just to make you aware about how the access is going to work when we are applying restriction rules. Now I'm going to create a restriction rule in this job application object. So I will show you how you will be able to create a restriction rule. We can open the job application object. When we open the object details, here you will be able to see restriction rules and scoping rules. And what I have noticed, restriction rules are available in all the environments. I'm talking about developer edition. This is because I am using developer edition currently for the demo. But the scoping rules are available only for orgs that got created after Spring 22 or something like that. So if you are not seeing scoping rules and wondering why it is not available, probably you might need to create a new environment, then only this scoping rule will be visible. Now, let me go to scoping rule. Restriction rule. I have a restriction rule already created, but it is not active. So I will quickly show you like how we will be able to define a restriction rule on job application. So what is my requirement? My requirement is that all the users with recruitment recruitment team as the role should be seeing records only based on his geography. To apply this, like I mentioned, when we are creating a restriction rule, there are two criteria that you need to define. First one is user criteria and second thing is record criteria. So user criteria, what I am going to define here is this user criteria is going to get applied on users whose role is this ID is corresponding to recruitment team. So this particular restriction rule is going to get applied on all the users whose role is recruitment team. And then the record criteria. So how the visibility is going to control. That is based on if the job application's geography is equal to logged in users geography, meaning if the geography of the record and the user matches, only those records should be visible for that particular user. I hope this is clear how the criteria is set up. Now what I'm going to do is let me make this active. So I made it active and let us save this restriction rule. Now I am going back to the other window where I am already logged in as the recruitment manager, where you can see he had visibility to both the records, and I'm refreshing the screen. Now you can see the access got restricted, meaning he is getting access only to EPAC record. Remember, I opened the job application from the EMEA region also in another tab. Let me go ahead and refresh this record and see how the behavior will be. You can see we are getting an error, meaning he completely lost access to this particular record itself. So he is having visibility to only records from EPAC. This is how restriction rules are working. Now, the same criteria, let us see with scoping rule, what is the difference? So let me go back to the restriction rule and deactivate that. So I just deactivated the restriction rule. Now, let me go ahead and open scoping rules. Again, I have created the scoping rules already, and you can see, let me go ahead and edit this. You can see here that the criteria remains the same. That is, if the logged in users role is recruitment team role, then the record criteria is that if the job application geography is same as current user's geography, only those records will be visible to this particular user. So let me make this active. So I will tell you, like, instead of restriction rules, where I might need to use a scoping rule actually. So my criteria is that I want to see a restricted view of records, meaning today I want to work on all the EPAC job applications, and tomorrow I would like to work on only records from EMEA. So of course there is different ways of achieving this, like you can have different list views getting created. This is another way of solving that, like that is using scoping rules. I will tell you how that will be achieved. Now I'm activating this and saving this. So the scoping rule is active at this moment. So when I'm going back to the job applications, and if I activate, refresh this again, you can see he's still having access to only a pack record. The other thing that you need to, if the scoping rule needs to be applied, right, there is one more criteria. There is a filter criteria on each and every list view. By default, it will be filtered by owner, like probably my job applications. When you create a scoping rule, automatically one more filter type is getting added to your filter view, which is called filter by scope. So you need to make sure that that is selected. Then only the list view, sorry, the scoping rule is going to get applied on this particular record. Now you can see again, it remains the same. That is, he is having visibility only to records from APAC region. But let me go back to the other job application from EMEA and refresh the screen. You can see even in the list view, even if the user is not having access to records from EMEA, since we have opened that record already, he is not losing access to that record. He can still view. The only difference is that our list views are getting filtered out by the scoping rule. Now, how you will be able to enhance this application so that now he is seeing the APAC records. I want to change it to EMEA. How I will be able to do? For that, I have created a workflow. not workflow, a standard flow. And that standard flow, a flow I associated with update geography button. You can see at the top, there is an update geography button. First, I will show you the execution of how the geography can be updated in the view. And after that, I will show the details of that particular flow. So I'm clicking on this update geography. So it will take me to a screen flow. And there I will be able to select the required region. So the current view was APAC. So I'm selecting EMEA and I'm clicking on next. So it is telling user geography got updated. So at the backend, what I am doing, the current user's geography information I am updating as EMEA, so that he will be getting now access to EMEA related record. So this got finished. So let me go back to the job applications view and move to the all job applications. And now you can see he is getting access to EMEA records. And I will show you one more thing. Earlier, you have seen that the user's region was APAC, but with this update through flow, what happened? The user's region got updated as EMEA. That's how the scoping rules will be working, so that you are getting a flexibility of applying different regions at different point of time. Now, let me quickly show you the flow also, like what I am actually executing under the flow, so that these views are getting updated. So there is a flow called geography selection. Let me open that. This is a very simple flow. So let it get open. So first, like I mentioned, there is a geo selection screen where I'm just giving a drop down to select the geography. Once the geography selection is done, there is an update user operation or action where the selected, whatever value we selected in the geo selection pick list, that will be getting updated as the geography value of current user. That's what we are executing here. And after that, there is a confirmation state. That's it. It's a simple flow. That's what getting executed as part of this screen flow. And using this screen flow, you will be getting flexibility on which records are getting displayed for this particular user. Since I have shown this, maybe I will update this back to APAC itself and see whether it is getting updated. The view is getting updated back to APAC or not. So let us select APAC. The operation got finished. Let me go back to the job application. Every time, since we have opened both the records, the recently viewed records is going to show both the records. But our specific view, if you go back to that, now you can see, since we have updated the user's geography as APAC, the only records from APAC will be shown as part of this particular view. So I hope by this, it's clear that how, what's the difference between scoping rule and restriction rule and where we will be able to apply this. These are some of the resources I referred for preparing for this session. And thank you so much for attending this. And if there are any questions, I am happy to take that.
Thank you, Meera. This was really beautifully explained. Just a quick one, like do the scoping and restriction rules work fine with the API calls as well?
API calls, I don't think so. Because API calls, the access is restricted based on the user setup, right? And because you will be using if you are using a particular user for those API calls, and for that particular user, if there is a specific restriction rule applied, in that case it will work. But most of the time that is not the case, right? You might be using some authorization flows. In that case, restriction rules and scoping rules will not get applied.
Got it. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you. We have next session. So thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, everyone, and enjoy your day. Bye.
Okay, thank you. Bye. Take care.